It is hate week along the Georgia-Florida border, so that means the Gators and the Bulldogs are getting together in Jacksonville as they always do. We got Anthony Dasher on the line, UGAsports.com. That's on Rival, so check out Anthony's work tracking the Bulldogs. Anthony, what's going on today?
Yeah, like you said, getting ready for another trip down to Jacksonville and the banks of the St. Johns River for the latest edition of Georgia, Florida.
Well, there's been a wrestle the last couple of years in regards to where this game should be played. Of course, we're all used to the split stadium deal that's similar to Oklahoma, Texas. Very rare in college football, but they've kept it as a neutral site. Kirby Smart would like to gain a little bit more recruiting edge at home. He has talked about that. There's a situation coming up with the Jaguars upgrading their stadium that I understand is going to play into where this game could be played in the future.
Yeah, well, as it stands right now, of course, they extended the contract both for Georgia and Florida to 2025, but in 26 and 27, Everbank Field is undergoing what I understand is going to be like almost a $2 billion renovation. They're going to really change the entire shape on everything of that facility and do a lot of improvement around the stadium itself. So, Georgia and Florida are going to have to find a place to play for a couple of years. Now, I suspect it'll be home and home for those 2 seasons. That would be probably the easiest thing to do. Then they'll go about the, decision making about what they want to do. After that, of course, the league will be expanded. By then, they'll have to make, and that will probably, will probably come into play a little bit as far as what they ultimately decide to do. But Coach Smart was actually kind of back down off his deal where he was like, was not in favor of playing the game down there. He's kind of, when we asked about it on Monday, he kind of brushed that off to the side a little bit. So he really wasn't worried where they played. You mentioned the recruiting. They can bring recruits to the game now. Of course, the only thing when you bring them, you can't host anybody on an official visit, on an official visit, on an off-campus, site like that. But that recruits can come to the game now. Schools can bring them to see them play.
Well, what Kirby Smart is concerned with right now, and all Georgia fans and coaches and everybody, is that one of the best players in the country is not available for roughly 4 to 6 weeks, from what I understand is the estimation right now. So when we talk about tight ends, sure, every position, every player can be important, but that's not usually a position that we think, okay, an offense runs through a tight end, but this guy's just different.
Yeah.
And when they've needed him, he does kind of run that offense and is a central figure, as we saw against Auburn and countless times the last 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, Brock Bowers is just different. I mean, I've never seen personally seen a tight end that can do as many things and do as many things well, as that young man can. I mean, just plus the toughness, the physicality, everything about it that he brings, to the field is just going to be missed. Now, of course, Coach Smart's been asked about, this extensively in the past 2 weeks since the injury happened at Vanderbilt, and he'll swear to you there are no, quote unquote Brock Bowers plays in the Georgia arsenal that they can run those same plays with other players. Problem is, they don't have many 6'3", 245-pound guys who can run a 4.5 like Brock can. So there's no question he's going to be absolutely missed, and that's I think a huge break for Florida, knowing they don't have to worry about covering a guy who last year had like 5 catches for 154 yards, and had that great tip catch he had for a touchdown, last season. But the question now is how will Georgia, again, distribute the football, and you're going to have to see these wide receivers kind of step up now. They've got plenty of guys, plenty of still, they still got a lot of skilled players, but not having Brock Bowers is there's no way you can say that's a good thing for Georgia.
They may not have any Brock Bowers plays, but I'm guessing that there are certain plays in the playbook that they don't call quite as often when he's not there.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, number one, just to get into football, that's really all you got to do. We've seen him make some just crazy catches. With in the Auburn game, for example, he had 2 back-to-back one-handed snags where you're sitting there just like, man, how did he just make that happen? But that's what you're used to seeing with that guy. And again, that's something that's definitely going to be missed.
So there's been 2 games that obviously where Georgia got tested: South Carolina at home, Auburn on the road, because to look at this matchup against Florida, face value, 2-touchdown favorite, it doesn't appear as though it's going to be a super, super competitive game. But Florida's on that same level with an Auburn, with a South Carolina, or maybe better. They took out South Carolina on the road a couple weekends ago, and they've had a bye week to get prepared for Georgia. So they do present a problem. They got two of the better running backs in the SEC with Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne. And then on top of that, this last game, they were down by 2 scores in the fourth quarter and had to rely on Graham Mertz, which not a whole lot of people are confident in that, but he came through for them.
Yeah, well, you look at the stats. Graham Mertz is, leading the SEC in completion percentage. I think he's like at 76% of his passes. He's completed this year, and that's an offense that's gained a lot of confidence the past 2 weeks. Granted, the games were against Vanderbilt and South Carolina, which again gave Georgia certainly all they could handle. Being up by 11 at halftime before the Bulldogs were able to come back. But it's a good Florida team. It's just still a program that's taking steps to start to do a little better job recruiting, but there are areas I think that Georgia, they feel they can exploit. I mean, look at the trouble that the Gators had stopping the run against Kentucky when Ray Davis had 280 yards rushing. They've got Kendall Milton back, healthy now, and I believe you're going to see him and Dejon Edwards. I think they'll both have good games. I really doing this one, but keeping Mertz all schedule, that would be the number one priority, for the defense, along, with slowing down the running backs that you just mentioned. But, it's going to be a good game, but I just still think Georgia, even without Bowers, has maybe just a little bit too much offensive ability in Florida right now.
Yeah, I mentioned the 2 subpar performances, but to be fair, since then they came out like gangbusters in a Kentucky game that a lot of people were looking at and thinking, okay, this might be the one where they get picked off. But man, they must have known that we have to be on it. People are predicting an upset or predicting more of a close game, and man, they were just a dominant team, and then just pretty much took care of business against Vandy.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, the Kentucky game did surprise a lot of people, including me. I mean, like I said, the Wildcats were coming in, playing their best ball of the season, but Georgia just really shut them down. I mean, the run defense, I've been a little bit critical of early in the season. They have really kind of stepped it up, and that's probably the biggest reason I feel confident about Georgia's chances is this weekend. Even the too good of runners as the Gators have, Georgia so far not been run on much this year. If they can make Florida one-dimensional, that's going to make Georgia's job that much easier.
In a week from this week, we will do our best, Anthony, to reel you back in because Missouri's coming to town. Even though that doesn't appear to be, again, a game that is going to be close in the point spread, at least they've got a shot. They are the one team that's taking care of business to the point where that game will mean everything if they can pull off a major upset. But before we get to that, Anthony, and again, we'll save that for next week because it's all about the Gators. With Georgia, and it's a bit ridiculous for an undefeated team to be talking like this. What areas on either side of the ball do you think they believe need to be upgraded the most to be another championship team?
Well, for Georgia, defensively, is probably their perimeter defense a little bit. I mean, Georgia has been hurt with perimeter runs from time to time. We saw that, especially in the Auburn game, where the Tiger quarterbacks picked up some big plays. I think they had like 125 yards rushing, and most of that was around the edge. So that's an area they've got to tighten up. And there's still some time to time in the secondary they get hurt by some explosives that they want to shut down. But you look at the numbers, and Georgia is last in the SEC in sacks right now. I think, but a lot of that has had to do how quickly other teams have been trying to get the ball out, because they know Georgia's, defense is going to be on them pretty quick. But the sacks and, forcing more turnovers, more fumbles especially, that's an area I know Kirby Smart would like to see improve.
Please subscribe to our SEC channel. The link's in the description down below, and like the content. So like the video. Appreciate you doing that. Anthony Dashner. You can catch Anthony at UGAsports.com on Rivals. All right, Anthony, appreciate you stopping by, breaking things down for us.
Yes, sir.